Tearful testimonies from Wanful Court residents at the fire's public hearing. Good evening and thank you for joining us. The independent committee investigating the Wanful Court fire held its third public hearing today. The government's legal representative said it was a groundless allegation to say that the Housing Bureau's independent checking unit tipped off Wanful's contractor before inspections. Mo reports.
The public hearing investigating the Wanful Court fire resumed at Central City Gallery on Tuesday. David Look, the independent committee's chairman, and Jiang King-soon, the government's legal representative, arrived at the site. Soon began his opening submission by saying that the government is sincere and genuine in identifying deficiencies in the system and enacting systematic reform. But he mentioned a statement made by the committee's senior counsel, Victor Dose, that surveyors from the Housing Bureau's Independent Checking Unit, or ICU, had tipped off Prestige Engineering and Construction, the project contractor, about an inspection in October 2024. Describing the allegation as groundless, Soon questioned whether the contractor could have replaced substandard materials in the buildings with the inflammable kinds in a short period of time before the inspection. The barrister said that the ICU had reminded the contractor about the fire hazard risks, contrary to allegations that the surveyors did not follow up on the matter when residents lodged complaints. He pointed out that the ICU had inspected Wanful Court in October 2024, but the compostable foam boards were not installed on the windows at that time. Soon said the ICU could not be aware that the contractor would use the flammable foam boards later. During the submission of the Urban Renewal Authority, its lawyers stressed that the body is neutral and acts as a facilitator in the bidding process rather than a decision maker. The lawyer said it's unfair to say the URA failed to do its job properly. The Competition Commission also provided a submission in the morning hearing, listing out the types of anti-competition practices in the market, including bid rigging and price fixing. The Competition Commission said the malpractices have existed in the market for a long time. The Competition Commission proposed several legislative suggestions in the hearing, including criminalizing several anti-competition acts. Memos 9, TVB News.
During the hearing, the government lawyer revealed that the Fire Services Department never received forms from Wanful Court declaring the fire alarm in the housing estate had been suspended. The government's barrister Jiang King-soon said the Police and Fire Services Department received the report about the fire at 2:51 p.m. the day the fire broke out. As the fire spread quickly, they faced a fire of unprecedented scale. Of all the forms that Wanful Court had previously submitted to the FSD, there was no declaration that the fire alarm was suspended. The category about fire alarm was left blank. 3 Wanful Court residents provided testimony in the afternoon session of the public hearing. All of them were at home during the fire, but didn't realize what was happening at all initially. Again.
The first witness testimony hearing was held on Tuesday afternoon. Victor Dose, the lead senior counsel of the independent committee, questioned Ms. Dare, a Wancheng House resident. Dare said she was at home on the day of the fire. She recalled hearing noise outside the flat and smoke sweeping in her kitchen. But she still ruled out the possibility of a fire because the fire alarm didn't go off. She recalled opening the door and saw a blurred corridor. In the end, she left the unit with her cat, together with an elderly neighbor. Dare started sobbing when she recalled how she could not rescue her other neighbors from the fire. Witness Ms. Goh was another Wancheng House resident. While she had sensed pungent smell in her unit on the day of the fire, she thought the smell was caused by construction work, as it had happened before. When she opened her door, the corridor was already filled with smoke. Goh evacuated the building using the lift. Witness Mr. Learn, a Wancheng House resident, also failed to detect the fire initially. It was through WhatsApp messages and the internet that he was informed about the blaze. Learn took the stairs to evacuate. Speaking to the media, Learn said he had chosen to offer his account because he didn't want to lose an opportunity to speak out. Memos 9, TVB News.
The family of the deceased at a fatal crane collapse incident 3 years ago filed a lawsuit to the High Court, seeking to launch a personal injury litigation. The deadly industrial accident unfolded in September 2022 when a 65-ton crane collapsed on Anderson Road in Sao Mau Ping, killing 3 workers and injuring 6 others. alleging that the victims died because of the negligence of the contractors and the project's authorized person, Anthony Wong. The plaintiffs seek compensation claims for the injury, litigation costs, and the interest involved. The plaintiff's lawyer says multiple defendants have been summoned by the Labor Department and the Buildings Department, and that the two departments would not be able to provide reports and other documents until the relevant processes are concluded. So they applied for a stay of legal proceedings. The Master of the High Court approved the applications. Israeli strikes hit several areas in southern Lebanon early Tuesday, including a gas station belonging to the Amana company at LaGuardia near the port city of Tyre, sending a large plume of fire into the air. This as China's special envoy to the Middle East has said that countries in the region are deeply concerned about the impact of the war. Tracy Furness has more.
Several explosions heard in Beirut Monday night. Then thick black smoke seen rising up into the night sky in the city's southern suburbs. Israel conducted strikes after issuing warnings earlier, telling people to leave without specifying a target. There were no immediate reports of casualties. This is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel would continue attacks on Iran and Lebanon. The Lebanese Health Ministry said Monday that 10 people had been killed over the past 24 hours. After visiting the Middle East, China's special envoy to the region, Zhai Jun, told a news briefing that countries there are deeply concerned about the impact of Israeli-US attacks on Iran, and they are calling for an immediate ceasefire. Zhai visited Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait and Egypt and had in-depth exchanges of views with their foreign ministers and the Secretaries General of the Gulf Cooperation Council and the League of Arab States on the regional situation. In the UK, Prime Minister Keir Starmer is set to chair a meeting of the government's crisis committee, known as COBRA. The emergency meeting is expected to discuss the impact of the war in the Middle East on the British economy. Cabinet ministers, including Energy Secretary Ed Miliband and Defence Secretary John Healey, were seen heading into the Cabinet Office in Whitehall, a street in London lined with imposing government officers. The Governor of the Bank of England, Andrew Bailey, was also seen entering the building. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
The U.S. Senate has confirmed Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin as upcoming Secretary for Homeland Security. Timothy Lee tells us more.
On this vote, the ayes are 54, the nays are 45. The nomination.
Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin was confirmed as Homeland Security Secretary on Monday, with the Senate approving U.S. President Donald Trump's nominee after predecessor Kristi Noem was fired during a public backlash over the government's deportation operations. Mullin, a Republican senator from Oklahoma of Native Cherokee descent, is noted for being a Trump loyalist and a stable candidate who claimed his goal was to get the department off the front page of the news. The new Homeland Security chief may be hampered in reaching his target by Trump's latest order for the presence of ICE agents at U.S. airports to bolster local security during a budget standoff in Congress. This as routine funding for the Department of Homeland Security has lapsed since February 14th. Resulting in long waits at U.S. airports and scores of Transportation Security Administration personnel becoming increasingly absent. Meanwhile, Trump has refused the Democrats' demand for his administration's immigration enforcement operations to adopt changes after 2 U.S. citizens died as a result of such measures. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
And still ahead, the U.S. bans foreign-made consumer internet routers. Many dead in Colombia's military plane crash. And Boao Forum opens in Hainan. Welcome back. A jet landing at New York's LaGuardia airport collided with a fire truck on the runway, killing the pilot and co-pilot and injuring several others. The crash temporarily shut down the airport, the New York region's third busiest hub. Tracy Furness has more.
The crash occurred around 11:45 p.m. Sunday when an Air Canada regional jet arriving from Montreal and carrying 72 passengers and 4 crew members struck an airport fire truck traveling across the runway, responding to a separate incident aboard another plane. Multiple voices talking from the control tower.
Was the vehicle needed to cross the runway?
A voice soon after heard telling the driver of the vehicle to stop multiple times.
Front here, 4195, just stop there, please. Stop, truck one, stop. Stop, truck one, stop. Stop, truck one, stop.
A walking inspection.
A National Transportation Safety Board spokesperson described the scene, adding how they were able to retrieve the data recorder from the wreckage.
There is a tremendous amount of debris from taxiway Delta across runway 4 into some other areas. It's pretty expansive. Obviously, the tail of this aircraft is on the ground. And in order to get to the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder, the Port Authority and the emergency responders cut a hole on the roof of the aircraft, dropped down, and was able to get the CVR and FDR for us, which then one of our investigators drove back to our labs in Washington, D.C. today, where they've been able to at least verify that the cockpit voice recorder was not damaged. They'll begin work on the...
Michael Russo, Air Canada President and CEO, said the airline is focusing its efforts on the needs of passengers and crew members and of their families.
We now know that the captain and the first officer were killed in this accident. We are deeply saddened by the loss of 2 Jazz employees, and our deepest condolences go out to the entire Jazz community and their families. We know that there are many questions, but at this early stage, we do not have all the answers, as the circumstances are still being assessed.
Airport authorities say the runway will be closed for days. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Colombian authorities said more than 30 people died after they were involved in a military transport plane crash. The South American nation's military confirmed the incident, noting that the aircraft was a C-130 Hercules transport plane carrying 114 soldiers and 11 crew members at the time of the accident. The aircraft crashed in the country's southern Putumayo region on Monday. Sources said the transport plane initially departed from Puerto Leguizamo and was traveling to Puerto Asís, but crashed at an airport around 2 kilometers away, just minutes after taking off. More than a dozen passengers were rescued. This as U.S. aerospace giant Lockheed Martin, the manufacturer of the aircraft, said it will assist Bogota in relevant investigations. The U.S. Federal Communications Commission announced a blanket ban on all new imports of foreign-made consumer routers, citing national security reasons. The move is seen as part of Washington's latest crackdown on Chinese-made electronic goods, with sources saying that at least 60% of household routers currently used in the U.S. have originated from China. Timothy Lee reports.
The U.S. Federal Communications Commission announced the latest update to its list of equipment seen as insecure for use on Monday, this time the addition of all foreign-made routers. U.S. authorities said the decision was made owing to foreign imported routers posing a risk to the national supply chain, which could result in the disruption of the U.S. economy, infrastructure, and national security. The new regulation does not apply to foreign router models previously approved by the FCC. This, as an early report from Reuters, noted an estimated 60% of household routers in the U.S. were manufactured in China. The report further said the updated measure is part of Washington's latest effort to combat the Chinese-made consumer electronics. Another report by Bloomberg indicated the regulation aims to increase pressure on router brand TP-Link, which was established in China in 1996 and currently headquartered in California. The U.S. government sued TP-Link last month for allegedly marketing its networking devices deceptively, as well as accessing American users' devices. TP-Link stressed it will defend its reputation, emphasizing that Beijing has no authority over the company nor access over users' data. Last year, the FCC also cited national security reasons for its implementation of a ban on Chinese-made drones, including those manufactured by DJI. The move was condemned by Beijing, calling the regulation a bullying tactic. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Chief Executive John Lee arrived in Hainan to attend the Boao Forum for Asia annual conference. Lee posted on his social media page that under the national 15th five-year plan, Hainan has launched full island customs closure for more than 3 months to provide a low-tax gateway. He says Hong Kong is willing to complement the advantages of the Hainan Free Trade Port and work with global partners to build an open and prosperous future. He says Hong Kong will also work in 3 directions, including joining the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership or RCEP agreement, expanding its global trade network, and assisting mainland enterprises to go global. The Boao Forum Secretary General Zhang Jun stresses the annual conference's goal in building consensus through dialogue rather than courting controversy.
Under the theme Shaping the Future Together, New Trends, New Opportunities and New Cooperation, this year's Boao Forum for Asia features nearly 50 events, including sub-forums, roundtables and dialogue sessions with some 2,000 delegates from more than 60 countries and regions in attendance. At the press conference, the Forum Secretary General Zhang Jun says the global economic and trade landscape is undergoing profound changes, with Asia emerging as a key driver of global economic growth and a pillar of stability. Zhang says many believe that the Asian century has arrived. Through the annual Boao meeting, they hope to send a clear message that while global transformation brings challenges, it also creates new opportunities. And through cooperation, they can achieve mutual benefit. Zhang Jun notes that this year marks the start of China's 15th five-year plan and the first year following the implementation of the free trade port policy with closed-loop customs operations at the forum's host province, Hainan. Dedicated sessions will focus on China's economic outlook and development trajectory. Zhang says he believes through these discussions, participants can better understand China's development blueprint, gain deeper insight into Hainan, and seize investment opportunities in China for win-win results. New features at this year's forum include dedicated launch sessions for partners to present development initiatives, as well as AI-powered robots to assist participants. Zhang also says owing to the situation in the Middle East, some guests are unable to attend the annual international conference. He calls on all parties to pursue a ceasefire and de-escalation of the conflict.
In Tokyo, a member of Japan's self-defense forces broke into the Chinese embassy in Japan. Beijing's Ministry of Foreign Affairs expressed strong protest and lodged solemn representations with Japan. MOFA spokesperson Lin Jian says an individual who claimed to be an active duty officer of the Japan Self-Defense Forces scaled the wall and forcibly entered the Chinese embassy on Tuesday morning. Noting that Japan has failed to properly manage and discipline its self-defense forces personnel, MOFA says the incident seriously violates the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations and threatens the security of diplomatic premises. China demands that Japan immediately conduct a thorough investigation, punish the individual involved, and provide a responsible explanation to China. Cathay Pacific Airways has extended the suspension of flights between Hong Kong and the Middle East until the end of May. CX announced that its flights between Hong Kong and Dubai in the UAE and Riyadh in Saudi Arabia would remain suspended for 1 more month in view of the deteriorating situation in the Middle East. Affected CX passengers can rebook flights, change their destinations, or apply for refunds. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.